I was about to review this show like thrice already, and I never did. Well, today is the day I take the matters in my own hands, I guess. Jeez. The Boys is a great show. Yes, I know, crazy take. But I always kinda struggled with calling it one of the best TV shows out there right now, or even one of the best superhero television shows. Because with every season, I had some major point of contention while I was watching it. In time's perspective, maybe not all of them great points of contention, but I had some. Season 1 was probably the best season. I don't even know what exactly was my problem with it, but in time's perspective, it was amazing. Season 2 was also really great, but I also felt like there were a few aspects of it that I felt should have had more time put into them. Season 3, while great, felt also really filler. Like there was nothing really that major happening there, in my opinion. But in spite of all of that, I was just really excited about season 4. I don't know why, but I had a strange feeling that this will be the season that will finally turn me into a super fan of the show. I have no idea why. I just thought that this will be the season that I will simply have no major problems with, and I will just be able to rave about it. Well, that didn't happen. In fact, I think it was the worst season of the show. But with such a high bar, doesn't mean that the season was bad. This season was good, but I wouldn't say it was great for the first time in its history. Let me explain. Before we get to my main gripe with season 4, let me start from talking about the biggest changes and additions that happened in season 4. Starting from probably the biggest one, the way they talk politics. The political satire of the show was always its biggest point, and with that, its biggest strong suit. The creators clearly knew their politics, knew perfectly how to talk about them. They had a very good grasp on what's happening, and on both sides of the political compass, showed them through the show's weird lens in a pretty clear way. They did take a side from the start, sure, but they never showed either side as perfect. Both were fucked up in some way. The biggest difference was what either side did with the fact that they are fucked up. But most importantly, they were slick and subtle about it at the same time. In a way that sometimes that aspect of the show may have went a little bit unnoticed in some moments. It was always there in plain sight. It just wasn't really in your face like that. And at first, I didn't even plan to review this season fully. Again. But I was more ready to make a video about how difficult it is to make a good mainstream political satire that actually gets noticed as a political satire. Because to make it great, you have to be subtle with it, and you have to be really slick with the topic. But the problem with that is that if you do that too well, the smaller percentage of the audience will actually get the point, which was the problem of the first 3 seasons. As great as the political commentary in this show always was, a lot of people didn't really even notice it, and I thought they will go in the same direction in season 4. But they didn't. They decided to make it as in your face and as blunt as humanly possible. They made it their mission to make everybody understand what the fuck they are talking about, and that everybody finally understands this show. And I'm a little bit torn by that fact. On one hand, everybody understood them, which is hilarious that it took this much time for some people to finally understand that this show is about this. Homelander is a bad guy. The message was loud and clear, which means it worked in a way. It succeeded on that front. Everybody now understands what the fuck we are talking about. But on the other hand, from a perspective of a person that understood this shit from the get go, it felt a bit too in your face. Like, at some moments, it felt like a major overkill with the delivery of the satire. Even it was kinda throwing me off at some points, and not in a difficult truth kind of way where I have to face the reality that we exist in, like it made me feel in the previous seasons. And I was more like, okay, we get it. Can we move on? I wouldn't call this change really bad or good for either of those reasons. It just felt like a weird change and not in the show's usual way of being weird. Moving on from the political satire, I want to talk about the new characters, and there were some mixed results, in my opinion. Starting from what's probably the best new prominent character, Firecracker. While she was the most hammer-fisted way to deliver the political satire, sometimes too hammer-fisted, I think if you strip all of this Fox News presenter elements of her character, her story is really fucking sad. Like her background, her motivations, and what she is forcing herself to do throughout this season, and why she is doing all this, made me feel kind of sorry for her, despite all the hateful bullshit she was spewing throughout this season. I think her addition to this show added the most overall, but there were, intentionally of course, a lot of moments where I thought she was just plain unwatchable, but I guess in a good way. This show is weird. Another amazing addition to this whole ordeal was Joe motherfucking Kessler. When I saw photos of Carl Urban and the Jeffrey Dean Morgan together during the shoots, I got so excited. I can't even explain how much, and by God, they were extraordinary together. Kessler was probably the most straightforward character in the show's history, but it doesn't take anything away from him, because whenever he was on screen, I was just the happiest camper. His energy was just so different, and it was completely unmatched. He probably added the least from everybody except maybe Deep, but Deep was just bullshit, so forget about that. In terms of the big picture, but my God, was he entertaining as hell. Now for the more disappointing part of the new crew, starting from Sister Sage. This is probably the most generic character in the show's history, probably by a large margin. Like, the idea for the character itself is really nothing special. We all have seen this type of character in many different mediums, and normally the show always puts some interesting twists to characters like this, but with Sage, there is actually really nothing. It doesn't help they didn't really try to expand this character beyond she basically knows everything, she knows it, and she acts like it. She's basically only here to move the plot and to get to the point they wanted to start in season 5. But with as much screen time as she gets, they seriously should do a lot more with her. Same with our next character, the new Black Noir. A very similar case, a very simple idea that they didn't really expand beyond the surface level. He is not Black Noir, but he is supposed to pretend he is Black Noir. That's it, folks. They should have done a lot more with him, because I feel there was some serious unused potential. Same with Sage, serious unused potential. They did basically nothing with it, but I guess they could do something in the next season. I doubt they will put either of them in season 2 of Gen V. Oh yeah, I have to watch Gen V, fuck. And the last character I really want to talk about that I guess has anything impactful on the story is Colin. Where is Colin after episode 4? Has anybody seen this man? Do you have his name or phone number? Can you at least confirm that he is alive? I'm worried for the bro. Okay, but seriously, he seemed to be important in the first 4 episodes. It seemed like they are going to do something with him. But then he fulfilled his purpose and he is fucking gone, never to be seen or heard again. Why? What was the point of even introducing this character? Well, I guess I kinda understand the point. But really nothing? He's just here and then he isn't? And nothing happens? It was really weird how they treated this character. Okay, now let's get to my biggest problem with this season. You may have noticed that I didn't mention any of the character storylines or characters in general of our older guard. And yes, it was done intentionally, because the problem I have basically ruins everything that happens before it. Which is, if you've seen more than one video on this channel, you probably know what I'm talking about. Say it with me, the ending. I've seen a lot of bad season endings. The stupid ones, the pointless ones, the non-endings. But I don't remember when, or even if, a season ending does more damage to the rest of the season than this one. Well, I guess Idol, but Idol was as before the ending, so there really was nothing to ruin. But yeah, it's this levels of bad. This was a complete crapshoot. Let me explain why I feel this way. First of all, it made no fucking logical sense. Zero. Like, purely logically speaking, it was all bullshit. The hows, the whys, and the whats are pulled completely out of thin air. Characters know shit that they have no right knowing. The reasons basically don't exist or are rushed to Kingdom Come. This felt so underdeveloped, like they got the idea day before the shoot. Or even maybe hours, I don't know, both are possible. Second of all, it makes no sense from a story perspective. It feels like they had a plan of where they wanted season 5 to start. But they forgot, for most of the season 4, where all of this is supposed to go, and they were just writing a completely different story that is leading to a completely different ending. Nothing really comes together at the end, as soon as you are supposed to get that everything coming together moment. We just get a completely random and nonsensical swerve that makes zero sense based on everything that was leading up to this. Like, seriously, barely anything leads up to what happens at the end. Barely anything. Third, and probably my biggest gripe with this ending, is it burns almost everything leading up to this. Almost every single storyline that happens before the ending, that is supposed to lead to the ending, gets completely tainted by this awful bullshit. It makes almost every single one of them look either like a waste of time, poor writing, or simply bullshit in the big picture. Waste of time. Annie, as much as I like the storyline, the ending kinda makes it pretty much a waste of time. Frenchie, simply bullshit. Butcher, don't even get me fucking started. Newman, absolutely frustrating. Ashley, bullshit. Homelander, bullshit. Sage, atrocious writing, like, by God. They could have done something there, but nope. Seriously, this ending ruins all of their storylines in some shape, way, or form, and it is so frustrating. Because honestly, I was so invested in this show up to the ending. I was so going to give this a super positive review. But then this ending fucking happened, and I got an idiotic fucking swerve that made zero sense and basically burned this season in my eyes completely. The only character storylines that weren't ruined by this horrific ending was A-Train, probably the highlight of the entire show, amazing stuff. Huey, that had an amazing storyline, but it ended before episode 8, and I don't think it even ended in the 7th. So, like, he didn't really have anything to do since it ended. He was just kind of there. And Kimiko, that had a pretty good storyline, a bit undercooked, but still good overall. And I think Ryan is still salvageable in the next season, but we will just have to wait and see. There is a lot of work they have to do to salvage anything of this bullshit. This will go down in my mind as one of the worst season endings in television history. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong, and in a spectacular fashion. Overall, this season was frustrating, but I actually loved most of it. The show was, as always, super fun to watch. except these super wild sexual moments that were fucking unbearable, and they somehow get even worse with every season. Fuck's sake. Great writing, great directing, and even with some minor problems here or there, it was a great watch. But then the ending came in and ruined everything for me. Sometimes it's how you live in, folks, and season 4 left me frustrated and confused. I don't know what were they thinking coming up with this ending. But at the end, I would give season 4 like a low 7 maybe? I guess? But hey, probably most of you disagree with this take. And that's great. I want to hear your opinions in the comments. Also, now I have to watch Gen V. Why did no one tell me?